hindi po siya magiging sensitive to lysis. It will become resistant to lysis because it's rigid. No, it's resistant to the fibrinolytic enzyme system. Naintindihan? So, yun yung problema natin sa dysfibrinogenemia. Nag-form ka ng fibrin, but the fibrin is rigid, that it cannot be lysed, no, by the fibrinolytic system. Again, dysfibrinogenemia, structural problem. And then, number 6, before we proceed to the secondary, this is the last primary disorder, yung homocystinuria. This is a metabolic disorder. This is a metabolic disorder. Hindi siya direct na clotting factor defect. Okay? Pero kahit na metabolic disorder siya, it has severe consequences to our vascular system. So, pag-usapan natin yung genetics, autosomal recessive disorder siya. Ibig sabihin, a child must inherit a defective gene from both parent. Kailangan dalawa yung gene na i-inherit niya from both parent para magkaroon ng manifestation or para ma-express yung trait. So, ang nangyayari dito sa homocystinuria is that there is an accumulation of homocysteine. The homocysteine are found in blood and in urine. So, high levels of homocysteine are toxic. Toxic saan? Sa endothelium natin. So, kung naaalala ninyo, endothelium, that is the inner lining ng blood vessels natin. So, ibig sabihin guys, so when the endothelial cells or the endothelium is damaged, what will happen? If you remember, the endothelium is very important in primary hemostasis, right? Therefore, it will promote platelet aggregation. It will also activate the secondary hemostasis. It will activate the coagulation cascade. Right? Okay? And then also, mare-reduce yung mga natural na anticoagulant property ng vessels or blood vessels natin. So unlike many other primary disorder that is causing deep vein thrombosis or deep vein clot, homocystinuria is causing arterial and venous. Okay, arterial, kasi karamihan deep vein thrombosis, di ba? But this time, it causes both arterial and venous thrombosis. So, ibig sabihin, yung mga young patient, kahit na young pa sila, they are at risk already of stroke and heart attacks. Kasi ito po yung galing sa arterial blood vessels natin. Okay? And even pulmonary embolism also. Okay? So, that would be all for the primary disorders. So, proceed na po tayo sa secondary. Let us start with the lupus anticoagulant. So, again, pag sinabi natin secondary, these are acquired disorders of thrombosis. Ibig sabihin, these are conditions where a patient isn't necessarily born with a defect, but they develop it due to underlying diseases, pwedeng may medication, or dahil sa immune response nila. Let's start with the lupus anticoagulant. So, the name lupus anticoagulant is parang confusing siya kasi para siyang medication. Right? So, in a test, okay, sabihin natin in vitro, nag-a-act siya as anticoagulant. Pag sinabi natin anticoagulant, pinoprolong niya yung clotting time. However, in a human body, so in vivo tayo, powerful na procoagulant ang lupus anticoagulant. Ibig sabihin, it will increase the risk of blood clot. I repeat in vitro, sa mga test, ginagamit siyang anticoagulant. Kaya nga, ang pangalan, lupus anticoagulant. Pero pag nasa katawan natin siya, it is a procoagulant. Understood? So, it is an acquired antibody So ano po siya? Immunoglobulin. So it is attacking the phospholipids on the cell membrane. So by inhibiting the prostacyclin, okay? By inhibiting the prostacyclin, para saan ba ang prostacyclin? So usually para yan madilate yung ating blood vessels and it will prevent platelet aggregation. Understood? So ibig pong sabihin, so by inhibiting the prostacyclin, nababalance na yung clot formation. So, saan ba natin usually nakikita itong lupus anticoagulant na to sa mga diseases, for example, SLE. SLE is systemic lupus erythematosus. So, other immune disorders, mga cancer, even side effect ng specific drugs. Okay? So, for the laboratory feature, so because the antibody interfere with the phospholipid, it causes prolonged PTT and PT. Kasi nga, I repeat, in vitro, siya ay anticoagulant. Okay? So, in vivo naman, siya ay pro-coagulant. So, ibig sabihin, kapag marami tayong lupus anticoagulant, of course, it will promote thrombus formation. Understood? So, ulitin ko, bakit ito naging secondary? Dahil nga sa underlying diseases. For example, SLE, autoimmune disorder, mga cancer, okay, and even side effect ng drugs. Okay? Number 2, hemostatic protein abnormalities. So, this will tell us, no, the increase and the decrease of coagulation factors. So kapag nagkaroon ng increase sa mga coagulation factors, for example, 1, 2, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, when these are elevated, dahil bakit may elevated itong mga proteins na to? Kasi nga, di ba, if you remember, most of the coagulation factors are also APR. Ano nga yung APR? Acute phase reactant. So, kapag meron tayong inflammation na nararamdaman, o kaya pregnancy, o kaya oral contraceptive use, nagiging increase or elevated yung mga APRs natin. Katulad na itong mga to. So, when these factors are elevated, what will happen? No? The blood becomes hypercoagulable. Ibig sabihin, it is at risk of forming clot. Understood? And kapag ka naman decrease itong mga proteins, itong pinag-usapan natin, antithrombin, protein C, protein S, and abnormal ang fibrinolytic activity, what will happen? So that will also promote thrombosis. If you remember, antithrombin, that's the primary inhibitor of thrombin. So, next, kung decrease ang antithrombin, anong mangyayari? So, there will be more thrombin that will be formed. Correct? Ang protein C, taga-deactivate ni factor 5A tsaka factor 8A. So, kung mababa ang protein C natin, walang magde-deactivate kay 5 at 8A. Right? And if decrease ang fibrinolytic activity natin, as we have mentioned earlier, anong mangyayari? Ibig sabihin, walang magla-lyse ng clot natin. So all of these are at risk, no, of developing thrombus formation. Naintindihan? So I will repeat, bakit nangyayari ito? Nagkakaroon ng increase sa mga factors na to, decrease sa mga factors nito. I repeat, that's maybe because of inflammation, that is maybe because of pregnancy, or mga oral contraceptive use. Okay, number 3. Punta na tayo, number 3. Okay, number 3 po ito ha. So, these are other triggers for thrombosis. Triggers ha, sabi ko nga sa inyo nung diniscuss natin last week, yung secondary hemostasis, secondary disorders ng thrombosis, meron tayong mga trigger, okay, na kailangan para mangyari yung thrombosis sa secondary disorder. So, halimbawa, surgery, post-operative state. So, during surgery, especially mga major orthopedic procedure, ano yung mga example ng major orthopedic procedure? Mga hip, knee, replacements. So, tissues are cut and manipulated. So, ano nangyayari? The release of activating tissue substances, katulad halimbawa ng tissue factor, marirelease yan directly to our bloodstream. Alam niyo naman kung anong effect ng tissue factor, di ba? It initiates the secondary hemostasis, specifically your extrinsic pathway. Understood? So that will start, no, or will signal the coagulation cascade. So leading to the risk of deep vein thrombosis. Naintindihan? Another trigger would be cancer, malignancy. So bakit kaya nagiging trigger ang malignancy? So neoplastic or yung mga tinatawag natin cancer cell can synthesize and release their own procoagulant factor. They can release their own inflammatory cytokine. Okay? So there will be thrombosis as well. Kasi na-release yung mga coagulation factors because of the cancer cells. Another trigger would be pregnancy. Okay, bakit? Kasi natural na hypercoagulable state ang pregnancy ha. This is the body's way. Natural po ito. Ibig sabihin, physiologic condition siya. The body's way of ensuring the mother doesn't bleed due to childbirth. However, yung natural occurrence na yan also carries risk. Correct? So, yung placenta kasi is very rich in tissue thromboplastin. Your tissue factor. The placenta is also rich in your tissue factor. So, if this enters the maternal circulation, anong mangyayari? So, matitrigger na naman yung clot, matitrigger na naman yung extrinsic, matitrigger na naman ang secondary hemostasis. Okay? So, the physical weight of growing uterus can also compress large veins. Kaya, posible rin magkaroon ng stasis. And I mentioned during the first part of the discussion, stasis, okay, means there will be thrombosis. Understood? Okay? And then, another reason for pregnancy other than the release of the tissue factor in placenta or from the placenta, okay, magkakaroon ng stasis, correct? Decrease ang blood flow dahil doon sa nag-grow na uterus, nako-compress niya yung mga large veins. Posible rin po na magkaroon ng hormonal changes. Right? So, yung hormonal changes causes rise sa mga procoagulants natin. Katulad halimbawa ng factor 7, factor 8, and fibrinogen. And also, nagda-drop yung antithrombin. Naintindihan? Okay, and number 4, yung oral contraceptive use or yung estrogen. Another trigger para magkaroon tayo ng thrombosis. So, estrogen, it mimics some of the chemical signals during pregnancy. E di ba kapag pregnant, mataas ang estrogen level? So, syempre, pag umiinom ka ng oral contraceptive o kaya naman estrogen, it will increase the synthesis of many coagulation factors in the liver, while simultaneously decreasing the natural anticoagulant. Ano yung mga nadidecrease na anticoagulant? For example, sila protein S, yung diniscuss natin nung una, right? And even antithrombin, madidecrease din yan because of the estrogen or oral contraceptive use. Okay? And then for the platelet abnormalities naman, okay? Ano naman ang problema natin dito? While quantitative and qualitative sa platelet. So, halimbawa, pagka nagkaroon ng thrombocytosis, again, when you say thrombocytosis, there is increase in platelet count. So ibig sabihin, maraming platelets sa circulation. So what will happen? They will, the likelihood of colliding, okay, of them, and they will form a clot. Correct? O kaya naman increased aggregation. So the platelets react much more aggressively than normal. Kapag halimbawa, nagkaroon sila ng encounter sa ADP, naalala niyo yung ADP, collagen, epinephrine, mga antagonist po ito, remember? So that will trigger platelet aggregation. So, kailan ba natin nare-release ang ADP? Ang ADP nare-release yan from damaged cells. Correct? Ang collagen kapag na-expose, kapag na-injure ang blood vessel. Ang epinephrine, stress response. Okay? It is a stress response. So, ibig pong sabihin, kapag ka nag-increase yung mga, halimbawa, itong beta-thromboglobulin, itong platelet factor 4. So, these proteins are released from the alpha granule of the platelet. Correct? Sa alpha granule siya. So, pag na-activate yan, magli-lead po yan sa thrombotic formation. Naintindihan? Okay? So, clinical conditions, for example, DM or diabetes mellitus. So, bakit kaya siya involved or associated sa platelet abnormality? Kasi high blood sugar causes non-enzymatic glycosylation of protein on the platelet surface. So, ang ibig sabihin, yung mga platelet, the surface are more sticky, okay, and more reactive. Okay, because of diabetes mellitus. So, pag mas reactive sila, mas matikit sila sa isa't isa, the more they are prone to forming thrombus. O ano naman ang association ng hyperlipidemia? So pag sinabi nating hyperlipidemia, mataas ang circulating fat katulad ng cholesterol. So that can also damage the endothelium. That can alter the platelet membrane. That will promote aggregation. Okay? Ano naman yung mga myeloproliferative disorder? Ito po yung mga bone marrow cancer. For example, essential thrombocythemia. Sa essential thrombocythemia, overproduction ng platelets. May overproduction ng platelets. Siyempre, kung may overproduction ng platelets, this can lead to thousands, millions of platelets in our system, ha? Pag sinabi natin essential thrombocythemia. So, that will, of course, lead to thrombosis kasi sobrang dami ng platelet. And we have the HIT. Ano yung HIT? We have the heparin-induced platelet agglutination. So ano naman to? This is a serious drug reaction. The blood becomes thinner because of the heparin. Okay? And this causes the immune system to create antibodies. And the antibodies here will activate the platelet. So pag na-activate syempre yung platelet, what will happen? Eh di magkakaroon na naman ng formation ng clot. Naintindihan? Okay? So that are the ones that are associated with platelet abnormalities. And finally, ito na po yung last na secondary disorder natin, may mga blood vessel and flow abnormalities. For example, so when the blood touches anything that isn't smooth, natural, that isn't smooth, okay, anong mangyayari? It treats the surface as an injury. Pag hindi natural, hindi smooth, yung lining ng blood vessel, tinitreat ni blood vessel yan as an injury. Naintindihan? So ano ang example ng mga triggers? Okay? Mga foreign materials na nilagay natin sa body ng patient. Okay? So that will trigger immediate platelet function. Katulad ng adhesion, release, aggregation. Naintindihan? So, what are the common culprits? For example, itong mga artificial or foreign surfaces. Katulad halimbawa ng mga prosthetic heart valves, okay? Mga vascular grafts, mga hemodialysis, hemoperfusion. So, this will trigger, no? Dahil hindi siya natural na part ng katawan natin, hindi siya natural na part ng blood vessel natin, natitrigger po yung primary hemostasis. Okay? Abnormal vascular surfaces. O halimbawa, nagkaroon ng endothelial damage. Okay? So, if the blood vessel wall is diseased, may abnormality, it loses the non-stick properties. So, under normal condition, di ba, ang endothelial cell is most para hindi magkaroon ng activation sa platelet. Naintindihan? So, halimbawa, merong SLE, Kawasaki disease, okay? Merong chronic occlusive arterial disease, Behçet disease. So, these causes inflammation in the vessel wall. So, kapag nagkaroon ng ganitong mga effect, so damage to these cells will increase the release of the von Willebrand factor. Alam naman natin yung effect ng von Willebrand factor, di ba? So that will trigger the primary hemostasis. Naintindihan? And of course, magdi-decrease din yung fibrinolytic activity natin. Okay? And finally, we have abnormal blood flow, yung tinatawag natin stasis. Okay? So, pag sinabi natin stasis, slow yung flow ng blood. So, if blood isn't moving quickly, the activated clotting factors, hindi po siya madadilute. So, they will linger sa isang spot lang. So, kapag na-reach na nila yung enough concentration para mag-form ng clot, syempre, mag-form ng clot. Okay? So, ibig pong sabihin, kapag hindi enough yung flow ng blood, that will trigger lesser delivery of oxygen. So magkakaroon ng hypoxia. Okay? And that will damage as well the endothelial cell. That will further trigger the clotting process. So lahat ng diniscuss natin for the secondary hemostasis, okay, are conditions, okay, or probably mga triggers para ma-initiate ang clot formation. Okay? So that would be all for the disorders of thrombosis. So, do you have any question or clarification?